Okay. So when you learn to market specifically for ideal types of deals and to your sellers, to be honest, then you create a more profitable and sustainable business. And the other slide that I don't have in here, it also talks about being able to monetize other deals that aren't what your focus is, i.e. through wholesaling, i.e. through listing these properties, okay, i.e. through joint venturing with other people. If you don't have the capital to do a deal, you can joint venture with another person on a deal, and learning how to monetize those leads, even though they're not fitting your criteria. Okay, for example, we do a lot of search engine optimization. And the way our SEO goes, it's not always ideal, meaning we're not just getting leads in our own backyard. We literally, at first we thought it was a bad thing. And we were just like flushing leads down the toilet, right? Just not even following up on them. And we're getting leads from out of state. Then we started marketing for mobile home parks. And, lo and behold, we have a mobile home park now in Illinois. We've got multiple RV parks in East Texas. Which Texas is fine. Illinois, I was like, what are we doing here? Kept negotiating lower and lower and lower. Then we started getting these leads for mobile homes because we're trying to market for mobile home parks. We're starting getting all these leads for mobile homes in other states, other parts of Texas. And we're like, we don't have a park to put them on. And I'm like, why are we throwing these away? So we've been wholesaling mobile homes in other markets virtually. So you learn to monetize these leads and you can really create yourself a sustainable business. But all this is building a funnel, okay? Figuring out which lead valves you want to open up, starting with one, dropping those in the funnel, letting people know what you do, gauging their interests, allowing them to make a decision if they want to take action or not. Everybody with me? All right. So estimating repairs is a little bit tricky. I condensed this section down and I don't have it. So we're going to go through the less condensed down section. This is a little hard. So every day investors walk away from good deals because they're unsure or uneducated about the actual cost of repairs. Has anyone walked away from a deal before because you didn't know what it was going to cost to fix? Right? And so most people who are investing, they've experienced that. I remember the very first home I went to look at, I called my agents. I mentioned this deal Saturday morning, didn't know what I was doing. I went over and I'm like looking at this house and I'm like, it's a house and it needs some work. And I just remember standing there. I'm like, I didn't know if it would be $10,000 or $100,000. Like, I didn't know. This foundation, like, what is the foundation? What is that? How do you tell if it's bad? Like, I didn't know anything. Like, I didn't know anything about anything. No construction background or anything. So that's not good because that could have been a deal. I don't know. And this is the yin and the yang. This is the catch-22. Everyday investors don't walk away from deals even though they're unsure. Right? Is anybody just type A and you just run into a deal because you're chomping at the bit to do a deal and you're like, oh my gosh, what did I get into? And I deal with that a lot too from other investors, sadly. My wife, she used to be a hairstylist when we first got started, when we first got married, and I was starting my business. And she had this shirt that she wore, and it said, I fix $5 haircuts or $7 haircuts. I can't remember. It's going back 20 years now. So she had this shirt. I fixed like $7 haircuts or whatever it was. And so we had a construction company for over a decade where we were helping other investors with the repairs. And I kind of felt like that. Like, I help investors fix really bad rehabs. I was on the phone. What's today? Today Tuesday? Okay. I don't know if it was yesterday or this weekend, to be honest with you. But a guy, went into a deal and $50,000 later, it's still a gut job. Contractors bailed. He's describing it to me and they did 1,000 square foot addition on a pier and beam home, and now the house is 3,000 square feet, but they didn't have any plans, and it's to the studs, and it needs everything except the framing, but who knows? There's no architectural plans. The guy just bootleg framed it, and a roof. I'm like, 3,000 square foot house needs everything. 40, 50 square foot, like you're 6 figures plus. I mean, like easily. He's like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. I'm like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's what this costs you, right? Just a little bit of education can really help you. So when you're looking at a flip deal, okay, this is really important too. So when you're looking at a flip deal, you want to look at, in this order, must, should, wow. So when you start estimating repairs, getting bids and whatnot, first look only at what you must do, okay? Foundations sloped, hole in the roof, you must fix that. Just start getting pricing, right? Things that you should do, that's going to be based off your comps only in that area. You need to meet, and I'll probably get into it in these slides, meet, and not necessarily exceed your comps, but at least meet what that market is doing. And then you may want to mix in a couple of simple wow factors, okay? But that's really important, like I said. You want to meet, not exceed the comps. That's some of the stuff now on these HGTV shows. When I watch them, I don't really think they're making any money. Most of the ones I see. So, as a matter of fact, a lot of them are not making money. Y'all want to hear a quick story? So one of these shows, we did a couple pilots to get our own show. I guess I wasn't entertaining enough, because we didn't get picked up. But one of the guys who was doing one of these shows, I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to do that, but he may or may not have been on Survivor. And so the producer, whatever the guy from the show, called me and he said, hey, we're doing a show with this guy. And he's already started flipping houses and they were recording them. And I was like, okay, what do you call me for? And he's like, the guy doesn't have a bleeping clue what he's doing. And he said, I wanted to see, we're looking to create a partnership where, you know, he can be essentially a 1% partner, something he was proposing. So you and your company would actually be flipping the home. He would have 1% or whatever it was, he said, partnership in the deal. So it's flip. And so they could come and do all their drama stuff and blah, 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 blah. And so that was pretty interesting. I'm like, that kind of revealed, I'm like, I didn't think a lot of these guys were making money. And so that kind of confirmed that. That did not go through, which I was really sad about because they were offering us like, you know, $40,000, $50,000 vouchers for Home Depot on every rehab and all this kind of stuff. I was like, yeah, sign me up. But be sure always take your meds. One of my best friends in this business taught me these years ago. All that meant was if you have a headache, you know, are you going to take 20 aspirin or you take 1 or 2? You're going to take 1 or 2, typically. I did take about 10 on Sunday because I did a half Ironman. So this is an exception to the rule. But you want to take the minimum effective dose, okay? What's the minimum effective dose with your rehab, right? What is the minimum amount of work that you need to do to hit, right, to hit that comp that you're going for? And that's where you want to focus on, okay? Because a lot of times people, and this, I was guilty of this when I started 16 years ago, and I'm still guilty of it sometimes now, is because I do like things to be nice, and I do like to put a good product out on the, and we're always going to put a good product on the market, but we have to do that within reason, okay? So you have to use math and logic and good business sense when you're planning your rehabs on for these deals. Yep, go ahead. You got to use the thing.
Okay.
Toss it.
Okay. What do I have to do with this? Here?
Just talking to it.
Okay. So my question is basically, do you though feel like I know you said that you also feel like making a house much prettier, or however you said. But I would feel the same, that in the marketplace, do you not need to have your house have something that's a little bit better so that it can
Yeah, good question.
sell, I guess?
Yeah,
Or
no, it's a good question.
Okay.
So must, should, wow.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so number one, like typically you're going to eliminate all eyesores. Okay, so number one is like you're going to eliminate, like for example, we were at a project today, and there was a lot of foundation work done today, and there's the cutouts for the foundation piers. You walk up to the porch, and there's a big old square with concrete, new concrete, because they had to fill in the hole from the foundation work. That's an eyesore. Okay, so it's kind of like the psychology when someone's coming up to buy a home or view your home. You're like, how can you put them into having thoughts like, I want to live here, I want to have Thanksgiving dinner here, I want my family, So it's pleasure pain principle. So you want to remove as many eyesores, which could be pain, potential problems, and stuff like that. They're going to know we did foundation repair. We're going to disclose and give a warranty.
Right.
But like, for example, on that front porch was maybe 15, 20 square foot. We're going to put like a nice exterior slate tile or something down, kind of cover that eyesore, right? So now they're at the porch like, oh, wow, this is nice, rather than, oh, foundation work done, pain, it triggers all that stuff. So number one, if you're in the medium priced house price point and below, which is 3, whatever it is, and below, start with just clean and functional, right? Anything that's old, outdated, you kind of clean that up. And then you go for some simple wow factors. You can't go extravagant.
Okay.
So we'll do, little things, like you've got a beam on the ceiling, you'll paint it. Maybe you'll do like a little shiplap bar on the, a shiplap wood on the bar. You do look for some little things to set apart. But it doesn't have to be big budget things.
Okay.
What we're doing now too, we've got a listing it's on a road called Lee Valley, if you want to check it out. There's a accent wall in the dining room. They got these, I guess they're 1x4s, and they, put them like all different directions. You know what I'm saying? Like it's diagonally. You know what I'm talking about? And they paint it, and now it's like this nice accent wall.
Okay.
And that was with, I don't know, $85 of lumber and some nails.
So
You see what I'm saying?
So basically, you're saying that you would try to do a little bit of the wow factors, but not in an expensive manner, so that you can. Because my concern was, so if you just make it functional, then how does it compete with the other houses? Let's say,
Yeah.
basically.
Well, okay. So best product, best price.
Yeah.
And may not get through all the slides today, but that's okay. So how do we compete? This is really important. So when I do my seminar, I talk about how flipping houses really is an ideal business model when you do it the right way. And the reason for that is like, let's say, for example, let's say we all want to get into the bottled water business. Okay. So there's not a whole lot of ways to differentiate ourselves. Plastic costs what plastic costs. Water's pretty much free, which I think this whole industry is pretty much a racket. Everyone's got took by this industry. But anyways, there's not a lot of ways to differentiate yourself unless you've got like some great marketing strategy. Yeah. Like it's a pretty level playing field. That's what is not the same with flipping houses. So when we go in to flip a house, now we're in a market, which, by the way, I do not flip houses in new neighborhoods and new subdivisions, right? We look for older established subdivisions where there's no new construction going on. Okay, so now we buy an undervalued property, significantly undervalued. And by the way, we're typically buying houses at 50% of their ARV. Okay, so if a property is going to be ARV at $300,000, I can almost guarantee you we're going to buy that home for about $150, give or take a small percentage. That's almost always the case. Why is that, right? So because so that's 50%. If we've got a big pie right now, and this pie is worth $300,000, so we're probably buying that house for $150,000. That means that $150,000 bottom of the pie is going to the seller. Okay, because this house is distressed, this house needs repairs. Okay, it needs updating. So 25% of that pie most likely is going to go to repairs. And that's what we're really good at, right? So we know how to get construction done quick, cheap, fast, all that kind of stuff, and make it pop and say, wow, it's this nice, clean. We have to do some little accents. We're good at that. If our seller was saying, no, I want the whole 300,000, well, guess what? Most likely, if they attempt to do these repairs by themselves, if they're not familiar with construction or have trades, all that kind of stuff, they're going to end up like this guy I talked to a couple of days ago who spent 50 grand. He's gotten absolutely nowhere. He's probably be taking steps back. And we've dealt with that all the time too. So how this is an ideal business plan, right, is now we can go into this market. Let's say we go into this subdivision and there's, 5 homes for sale that are all around or about $300,000. Well, when you dig into the comps, most likely you're going to find 1 or 2 of those houses at 300,000 shouldn't be priced at 300,000. That's why they've been on the market for 185 days. A couple of them may be nice, and then you may have 1 or 2 that they're okay. They're not great, but they're dealing with little Bobby and Susie Crayola on the walls. They've got a dog, so you're dealing with dog issues. And now you come to our house, which is best product, best price. Most likely we're going to price our houses a little slightly less. So now that's where it's an unfair business model because our competition is an inferior product, probably priced the same or more than ours, and ours is move-in ready. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's, we could just end right there. Because if you get that and a couple things I've already talked about, you're so much further ahead than everybody else. But a lot of people don't get those things. But when you are analyzing repairs, I'm going to hop through this kind of quick. When you're spending money, what I just encourage you to do, anything in your business, if you're spending money, like be thinking about the value you're getting back for that or don't spend it. When you're flipping a house and you think about, is this going to decrease my days on the market or increase my return on my investment, right? Drive my price higher. And that's the thing. We've already discussed this. Like most likely, I'm not in the business of setting comps for neighborhoods. We've set a bunch of comps. In the last few years, I'd rather be lucky than good. The last few years, it was really easy to set comps. That market's changing now, right? It's changing. Last few years, like, oh, really? You want to pay us $50,000 more over list price, but and 10 other people do? Okay, go ahead. That's being lucky. That's not sustainable. But if you follow this stuff and you analyze what you're really spending your money on, you're going to be fine. So there's really only 2 ways to estimate repairs. Quickly, so I kind of call this, we call this phase 1, and so I'll send my estimator who works for me, which is my nephew, say we need phase 1, quickly analyze this thing. What do we look at? And phase 2 is really it's accurate estimates from contractors. Okay. So these numbers are not totally updated. I had another slide that was updated. That's not on here. But essentially, you're looking at cost per square foot kind of numbers. If any of you guys want to email me, I'll send you the updated slides. My email will be here at the end. So you need to learn the pricing in your market. And I know people are watching this too online. They may be in a different market. So it's kind of hard to talk about quick pricing. The other way is just to get bids. And this is what I really encourage people to do is, okay, find your quick analysis formula. And that's all that we use to make offers, by the way. That's all that we do. We use quick pricing. We make an offer. We go under contract. Now we're getting bids. I'm fortunate to have an estimator on staff. But if you don't have that, which most people don't, that's okay. This is how you're going to learn. You're going to start talking to contractors. You're going to get on the phone. You're going to get bids. How do you find contractors? Ask other investors. Ask other hard money lenders. Preferably hard money lenders you're working with is a good source to find contractors, wholesalers, realtors. Just start asking, talking to people. Okay. Now you get to the point of the deal where, okay, you're evaluating that deal. I like to talk about the construction first because a lot of people have no clue without of how to estimate repairs or construction. If you don't have that, then you don't really have that critical number to analyze a deal, which is the cost of rehab. And the construction side of things, honestly, is the most difficult side of the business for people. The easiest part's the money, and that I always feel good about saying that, because a lot of people think the hardest part is raising money. It's not. The hardest part's the construction. The easiest part's the money. So when we're evaluating a deal, I talked about this briefly, there's only one way to do that, and that's going to be off comps. And all that means is good, hard data. Okay. We only want accurate and similar comps, ideally just from that neighborhood or that subdivision. I realize that's not always the case. You kind of got to go outside of those areas sometimes. Be careful when you're doing that, especially when you're getting started. Be careful. That's all I can say right now. But you want to find accurate and similar. Okay. You don't want different, and there's crazy comps out there. We see the craziest things, but you want to find something that's similar properties. Similar size, square footage, et cetera, et cetera. You cannot determine value from tax records, pending sales. Just because something says it's pending, you don't know what that price is. You don't know what it's going to close at. It could have appraised much lower. It could be negotiated much lower, and it could go $50,000 or $100,000 less for all you know. Dissimilar homes. There's some homes there's usually some when you pull comps of an area, there's usually going to be a couple of outliers on both sides, the high side and the low side. Almost as a rule, almost always tossing those out. And the exception to that is the cookie cutter neighborhoods where you've got a lot of similar products, then we may not toss them out. And homes on the market, they haven't sold, don't use that data. Now you do want to use the data if there's a lot of green, it's not good. If there's a lot of available inventory, there's no bueno. You want to see a lot of reds that have sold. How much time do I have? Oh, okay. Okay, so how do you define a deal? Well, that answer's different for everybody, what the definition of a deal is, okay? And there's no one definition, but you need to know what a deal looks like to you. So an easy way for me to look at a deal and say, all right, that's a safe deal is this: 75% of the ARV minus repair costs. That equals the maximum offer, which is usually what? Usually 50%. Okay. There's a few exceptions to this, not a lot. Okay. Because typically the way, the model, the formula, the science with how we add value, typically on a majority of deals, is there's a distressed situation. And the majority of those distressed situations is the property's distressed. So that means that we have to come in and provide construction services to add that value. There are exceptions to this, though. We're flipping a house right now that's closing next week. It's on the market at $485,000. And I don't know why this guy sold this house to us, just to be honest, because this guy was an investor, and I don't know his full situation, but we fully remodeled this man's personal home for him. My team did 5 years ago. And to the nines, amazing work. And this is their forever home. Some things happened. He called us. He's like, I know what I'm dealing with. I don't want to, I don't want to deal with it. I know what I could do. Here's what I want. And I'm like, I respect that. My acquisitions agent dealt with it, but long story short, didn't need a ton of work, need a little bit of work, but he wanted to be gone for his reasons, and we bought it. But that's an exception to the rule. But that's why I hold to this formula. It works, and the reason it works, if you're in median price housing below, is because these numbers are easier to estimate, they're easier to analyze, And that 25% margin, right, that equity is essentially your oxygen for your deal, okay? If you don't have oxygen, you don't have equity, you're not going to survive very long. You know, some people are like, man, well, can I go up to 80% or whatever? Can I go up to 78%? I'm like, you can do whatever you want, but you're running a very, very risky business that's not sustainable if you're flipping, right? Tonight's presentation is about flipping. If you've got, you know, if you want to go up 75, 80%, yeah, you know, buying long-term holds, some rentals, if you're doing an Airbnb strategy, perhaps. But I like to see that 25% equity because I know it, I trust it, it works. If I have to say no to a deal, we say no to a deal. And by knowing your numbers, okay, knowing what your numbers are, right, and knowing in your heart, like, I know this is what I need to be sustainable when you're negotiating, it just makes you more firm. Like, this is our number, and being okay walking away from deals. Can't get into calculators. We can't get into that. That's okay. This is important. Key indicators of a deal. Okay, if we're looking at a deal that we want to do, and we've got this built into our analysis, so my acquisitions agent, when he plugs in numbers, it kind of tells, hey, do we have a deal here? Our numbers are going to work with 100% financing, meaning if we want to get 100% financing, our lender is going to be in a good loan LTV. The amount spent in rehab should meet or exceed profit. So I have changed that on my updated slides. And what that means, like, even if you're in the 50% range, I'm okay with it. We used to be at this number. But let's say, for example, if you're flipping a house, you're going to spend $100,000 in repairs and you're making $15,000 profit. Is that a good risk reward ratio? Not at all. So if we're going to spend, like, let's say, for example, $100,000 in repairs, like, I want to be above $50,000 in profit, meaning at 6 to 9 months, whatever I'm projecting to be out of that deal, I want to be making a good return on my time and my investment and my risk. Because when you're holding real estate, that's a risk proposition that you're taking on. We like to be the cheapest house in the last 12 months on the MLS. That's almost always the case, not always, but we're buying off market. But when we're looking at comps that are sold on the market, we're usually substantially less than anything else. We look at cash flow, even on deals that we're looking to flip, we look at a cash flow analysis. Okay, why is that? Because bad things happen. Okay, so we've had to shift and take some flips that flopped and convert them to rentals. But if they could cash flow, even break even, I was good with that. And we've made a lot more money on a lot of those deals that we held for a few years. And then, you know, and if necessary, we can execute any of our exit strategies. And I'll talk about those. If the numbers don't work, walk away. I've got to wrap up pretty soon, but fifth fundamental is financing. Long story short, this goes back to mindset. And I hear this all the time, but if you here, let me just hop to this. The ability to raise capital is the number one skill set of an entrepreneur. So, you know, I'm not going to talk about these options too much. Let me see here. I'm going to talk about this, though. We all know that there's banks. We know that there's hard money lenders. There's a lot of options for capital in today's world. A lot of flippers are drawn to private money, and private money, thankfully, is drawn to flippers. It's a really good partnership. And that's why I wrote Private Lender Playbook. Here's the formula, guys. So if you're looking to raise money, money is attracted to good deals and trustworthy people. Okay? Good deals and trustworthy people. One of my lenders once told me, and she owned a title company, was very experienced in the world of real estate. She said, you know, Brant, she's like, we both know that the real estate, you know, is the collateral, right? That's my security here with my deed and my note and my loan documents. That's the security. She's like, honestly, you're the security. She's like, because if I don't trust you, then I ain't doing the deal. And she's like, I put more weight. The property is important, but I put more weight on you. So I always tell people, I'm like, you know, if you're analyzing a deal as a lender, it always comes down to the deal and the dude. So So if you guys are looking, I know some of y'all here are looking to raise money. If you want, my number one tip on how to raise money is don't raise money. Like, don't raise money. Like, stop. Like, don't do, like, this is 2023. The way that sales, at least for me, works, and we use the same approach in real estate, right? Is that you want to educate people, you want to help people, you want to do webinars, you want to do training, you want to do luncheons, you want to speak, you want to write blog posts, you want to do videos, you want to help. That's why I took the time to write that book, to educate people, right? There's no, like, I don't ask anybody to raise, like in my book, I'm not saying, hey, invest with me, do this. Like, no. But if you want more information, I'm here to help. So if you would seek to help others, find out what are your risks? What's an ideal investment for you? What are you drawn to? What do you not like? And you start, finding solutions to their problems or what they're seeking to do, and you establish that trust, and you bring a good deal to the table. It's really, really easy. But if you don't have a good deal, it's not easy. If you're not a good person, it's not easy. If you're not trustworthy, you can't be trusted. You're not honoring your word. You're not honoring your commitments. It's not going to work. You're going to get found out. Okay. Rehabbing, I'm going to wrap up. You got to have a plan. You have to execute that plan. Okay. When you go into a rehab, there's 3 things that we look at each and every time. Okay. When we meet contractors, usually start multiple projects every week. Number 1 is budget. When you're meeting with a contractor, if the numbers don't work and you have reasonable numbers, you got to find someone else who's happy to work with you at your numbers. Okay. You have to make sure your numbers are good, reasonable. And if they're good, good. Now we've had the budget conversation. We're on the same page on budget, meaning investor and contractor. Number 2, what's our quality expectation? So you can be on the same page on budget, but if they provide a product that is not good quality, not acceptable to that market, who cares? And lastly is schedule. They can have budget and quality, but if it takes them 6 months instead of 6 weeks, your profit has gone to maybe nil. Okay. So you got to establish those goals. You set a plan. You got to execute it. Email me for these slides. And we do have a plan with rehab too, which is this. If you want to take a picture of this, and literally our whole project management construction, each week there's a construction management meeting where what phase are we in this project with our contractors? What is the goal? How do we get out of this phase to move to the next phase? Each and every week we're moving the ball forward, and our contractors know. Most of our contractors know this lingo. This is how we operate through the 5 phases. And each week, the plan is, what do we need to finish up to get out of this phase into the next phase? Because we're constantly moving the ball forward. And we said, basically, micro goals each week. We're not looking at, our scope of work is usually 150 to 200 line items. So if you look at it, like, it's overwhelming, especially when we've got 15 projects going on like we do right now. But if you say, no, we don't care about all those. What's on phase 1 at this project? What are our goals to get done this week? Okay, German is my construction manager. German, we need to get these 5 things moved forward this week. Next project. And that way it's very scalable and manageable, and you keep things moving. Last, certainly not least, I used years ago, I just talk about flipping. And then I realized I went through oil and gas crash when I was flipping and developing a bunch of homes in the Heights. Not fun. And I said, you know what? Being a one-trick pony is not a cowboy that I want to be anymore. And I said, you know what? We've got to have some multiple exit strategies. Yes, you need to do certain things when you're flipping, but you always need to have some other plans. And so this goes back to the beginning, where if you want to be a successful flipper, and I encourage you to do that, I would also urge you to consider that Some deals are going to flop. Markets are going to change. Have the ability to be flexible and monetize the deal what's best for you. Because whenever, I started in this business learning to rent out properties, then I started flipping. Then I was doing a make ready, and I was frustrated, and one of my painters wanted to buy the house, so owner financed it to him. That was over 10 years ago. He's still in that home. No, I don't know how many owner finance notes, and I absolutely have owner finance notes. So, and it's also saved my tail end on a couple of deals that where I'm like, I'm not going to be able to make any money. Either got to cut price, take a loss. Oh no, I can provide financing, do owner financing, and make as just much or more money now playing the bank's game. So that's one of my biggest strategies or tips for flipping houses is learn multiple exit strategies.